Hello. So we are recording again. Finally! I had to restart the entire thing and clear my cache, which I really don't like doing because I don't have anything saved as customization quite yet. I am currently working on that. Hello guys. Today, well, let's put it this way. As you no doubt know from the title, it's about The Witcher. And being part Polish, I can say this. That's racist. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you have to say. When you take something that is primarily celebrating a culture and you deface it, specifically for the purpose of adding forced diversity into it, you're being racist. You're being racist to that culture, that heritage, and that ethnicity. That is disrespectful, it is rude, it is bigoted, and it's racist. I don't even have to explain myself any further than that is excessively offensive, under the assumption that Polish people are, how should I say this? Misogynists? Yeah. Why? Because Polish is a white culture. So is German, so is Irish, so is Swedish. There's a lot of white culture. The problem is, whites have been pretty much, how should I put this? Instead of celebrating it as the color of somebody's skin, we need to start recognizing it as ethnicity. And we need to recognize that things like The Witcher only tend to cover one specific ethnic group for a reason. The Witcher is primarily about Polish fantasy. Polish lore, Polish, basically. So when you take the main character, a Witcher, and you take them out of the lore of this fictional world, which derives from a country of primarily white people, I want to say, and you're pretty much advocating the alienation of that culture through some form of blackwashing of some sort, of color washing, I want to say, because they are considering making the character Asian, which I don't see how that has anything to do with Polish folklore at all. And to be quite honest, I think this is a very, very shitty move by the writers. I think it is entirely unnecessary forced diversity. I don't think it's a good idea, but here's what I think is a good idea. And I'm going to do it. I, as somebody who is Polish, and is actually interested in the ethnicity of my culture, and is actually fascinated by the fact that they were able to make a successful game primarily around that culture, which makes me kind of not as advert to being that culture. I find it highly offensive that somebody would later come in and say, well, because it's too misogynist and racist, they have to change the culture to something it's not. And primarily, they can't argue that, they can't argue their standing with me anymore. It's gotten to that point where any sort of argument for this kind of behavior from the SJWs towards me has gone, it's just not going to work. I will not accept it. And I will not accept it because these people claim to be for social justice. And here they are, pretty much shitting on an entire ethnic group, which I am a part of, and I find it offensive. And if I were to say that, you guys pretty much know what I'm going to be facing if I were to mention that I do find it offensive. You know exactly what I would be facing if I mentioned I do find it offensive. I don't even have to explain to these people why I find it offensive, being part Polish, that they would sit there and say, and I know exactly what they're going to say. They're going to say that The Witcher's too misogynist and too racist because they didn't add enough black people, or they didn't add enough people of color, despite the fact that The Witcher is not about those cultures. It is about primarily one specific culture that, I hate to say it, is primarily white. And the only reason I hate to say that is because, again, you're going to get a lot of those kind of people who are going to be very, very, very asinine. And I want to say that they're not going to be asinine, but the truth of the matter is they are. They know they're jerks. They know they're assholes. They don't care that they're jerks or that they are assholes. The only thing they particularly care about is, the representation. And unfortunately, the fact of the matter is their representation, or how they are portraying it, is pretty much violating another culture, which is what racism is. But they're refusing to accept that because, they're so quote unquote woke. Well, it looks like they're not exactly as woke as they say, because in order to be woke, you are implying that you are not blind to the world around you, that you are actually open to it as it is and not avert. How do I put this? You're open to it as it is, and you're not against the world as it could be. And because they're not really as woke as they claim, that really brings home what this is all about. This is not about being woke. It's not about representation of a current race and or ethnicity. In fact, they just deleted a white race and a white ethnicity to make it about some other ethnic culture when it's not. And this is just, it's ridiculous. It's sickening to think that these people are going to continue to go on and continue to say things like, well, you're not woke, and use that as an excuse to basically castricize and bastardize white culture that has, well, pretty much survived the Holocaust. They keep saying that they really hate Hitler and what Hitler was trying to do and all that stuff, and Hitler's racism, and Nazis are horrible, and they keep preaching this, but when it comes down to it, they're the ones being the Nazis right now. And that's another thing. They're the ones being the Nazis. This is like beyond proof positive, because what you're doing is you're taking out one specific culture by saying that, no, this isn't how it was represented, and this is how it should be represented. You're taking out that specific culture to insert some form of pseudo-dominance over, I don't even know what to say about it anymore. I mean, my goodness, this is beyond ridiculous. This is not how you're supposed to adapt things. You take the fact that The Witcher does have a lot of diversity within its own lore, within its own world, but then you've got these people who the primary subject of their focus is diversity and representation, and they don't give a damn. They don't give a damn enough to do it right. And in my personal opinion, if you're going to do it, you do it right, or you get kicked from the project. In my personal opinion, it's time these people started getting kicked from the project. And I'm going to send Netflix a notice, telling them how I feel about the racism in this new version of The Witcher being directed specifically at people who are of that culture. And it's not something I want to do, because I'd rather just, as you can see, I'd rather work on my stream, having this problem with my customizations and all that stuff. I'd rather be working on my stream. I really would, but again, this is a case of I'm going to be sending Netflix a letter about it, and I'm going to be telling them exactly how disappointed I am. It's not right that they would do something like this, especially what they keep saying about other people. And yet they're the ones turning around and doing this. This is not right. This is messed up on so many levels. I shouldn't even have to tell you guys how messed up this is. you already know pretty well how messed up this is. You already know how horrible it is that they would do something like this. But the fact that they are being allowed to continue to be part of these groups, these medias, after doing something like this, I'm sorry, no. They need to go. They need to go. I'm not going to negotiate this. If they're going to continue to do this, if they're going to continue to behave in this manner, if they're going to be this unprofessional, they need to go. And as I mentioned before, I suppose I might as well get down to this as well. I did say my next video was going to highlight what SJWs are doing wrong in media. What they're doing wrong in media is they're forgetting to leave their politics at the door. And it's about time we told them that again. As not just as consumers, but as it's time the corporations decided to tell them that as well. If you want to be a part of this project, you need to leave your politics at the door. That needs to be a consistent. That needs to be something that is said. That needs to be something that becomes a talking point of them, and needs to be, well, if you want to get into this industry, unfortunately, you can't bring your politics with you. And that's the whole point. When you're making entertainment, you're not making it to appeal to one certain political group. You're not making it to appeal to one certain specific minority. You're making it to appeal to the masses. And with The Witcher 3 and the Witcher series, apparently it appealed to the masses. And it was great. It was wonderful. It was a very good representation of what it should have been. And it was very, very, very well done. It is a very, 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 very wonderful piece of literature from Poland and Polish culture. And I, for one, have been trying to get my hands on the Witcher books. And I haven't been able to get my hands on them, which is actually a good sign for my area. But at the same time, as someone who has that ethnicity, who is part Polish, I find it very offensive that they would sit there and erase my culture from something that came from my culture. It is disturbing on a whole new level. And that is what it is. That is why they need to leave their politics at the door. This is something from a primarily white culture. This is white culture representation of a culture that's not widely represented at all, if any. And it's done very well. That's the thing. It is done very well. And how rare it is for something to be done that well. And in that fashion, for something like The Witcher, you can't sit there and tell me that sitting here and removing it to add more representation is justified. You just can't. You can try and, bait me into thinking that you're right and I'm wrong, but at the end of the day, it's not about your representation. It's about representation of a culture. So when you sit there and you basically insult that culture by saying, oh, it's not diverse enough. Well, of course it's not diverse enough. It is a single culture. But the fact that the series portrayed it in a story that is itself diverse, that needs to be taken into consideration. And unfortunately, they don't want to take that into consideration. It would mean that they would have to, it would mean that they would have to accept that they're the ones in the wrong. And they don't want to have to do that. They never want to do that. And they don't want to do that because, again, this goes into their whole, it distorts their message thing. Well, I don't care about your message, okay? You've sat there and you took something that was part of a culture and you're saying that, look, we took the racism out of it, when in fact you put racism into it. So I don't know how more I can explain this to you, that the difference between it being racist and it being just a change is that in this sense, you are talking about something that is from a specific culture. And you are saying that, no, that's not what this culture is, when in fact, that's exactly what the culture is. You're taking the myth from that culture, from that time period, from the, centuries of this culture, and you're just shitting all over it. And you're saying, look, we're being woke. No, you're being racist. That's exactly what you're being. You are being racist. Okay? But at this point in time, I don't think anybody's surprised that the SJW culture has decided to be racist. I don't think it surprises anybody at this point in time. Because I think at this point in time, people pretty much have come to expect it from you. They have pretty much come to expect the worst. And instead of getting what these people should be, getting in a good story, which is a good story about a good story from a culture, they're getting your representation shoved right down their throat. And you wonder why people are pissed. Like I said, I could tell you why people are pissed. They're pissed because you've decided to insert yourself in a place of dominance where you do not belong. You have decided that this culture does not deserve representation. You have alienated this culture. You have alienated its standing, and you have alienated everybody that's a part of it. So I don't know what else to tell you other than this isn't your culture. This isn't your representation. This isn't for you. But you were given authority over it by some stupid idiot that thought it was okay. And I have nothing more to say other than that's racist. What you're doing to The Witcher is racism. You are basically insulting another culture by saying that merely by existing, it is not woke. And as somebody who has that culture in their bloodline, I can come out and say it. That's stupid. That's racist. And nobody's quite surprised that you're being racist. But know this. I am going to send Netflix a very strongly worded letter voicing against posting this series to its form. I'm going to encourage they remove it from the platform if it is indeed going to negate the original lore and insult the culture, which is what it's going to do. Because SJWs can't leave their politics at the door. Apparently, I can though, but I'm egalitarian, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, that's all I have for today, and the storm's probably coming in again, so I better finish this up if I can. I'm probably not going to finish it today, and as you can see, I am working on a Bit Cup cover, and I've been encountering some issues with the lion head. It's not really working out the way I wanted it to. I guess I will talk to you guys next time. See ya!